I want to talk to all engineers that are interesting, mechanical controls, electrical, maybe some civil engineers, and all the guys that have something to say. I want to have an interview and put some spotlight on us engineers.
So engineering is an important part of that.
We go back a long way. Ever since 2000, I think 2001 or 2002. What was the year?
2000, I think 2002. And one of your first IR projects is still functional and being serviced by what AS Hungaria now. Martin Takacs takes care of it now. So I talk to him fairly frequently. So that's an old project, right?
Yeah,
so that's your cylinder one.
Yeah, for the fire extinguishers. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a great one.
How is stuff in Krajovik busy?
Well, I used to be. I talked to you when I was in US. I used to be in US for like 4 years.
Yeah, you're in Chicago.
Yeah, in Chicago. I used to do their engineering work, automation and packaging industry. And luckily for me, because I have 6 kids, my boss let me my boss let me stay here and do my stuff remote from my laptop, and so it was a win-win for me. And I got here in 2018, and now I'm here working on project engineering and project management, and I do all the documentation for the company, all the manuals, all the validation documents, all the procedures and stuff. But only engineering part, not administrative or something like that.
Okay.
What are you doing now?
So well, I'm actually doing what I used to do, but from my basement. You're in my basement in Fort Saskatchewan, is just north of Edmonton, and Dryquick, where I was when you and I first met, and ended up getting shut down by CCI Thermal, and they let me go without any non-compete arrangement. So I marched my distribution system down the street 2 blocks to Blaisdell. and carried right on.
That's good. I saw that.
Blaisdell used to be a quasi-competitor, but we weren't really competing because they had no distribution. They were doing stuff on a direct basis. They didn't understand from an admin standpoint that if you're going to be just going to marketplace with engineered products, you either do it through distribution or you don't, period. And we had very solid distribution contract that I developed over the years, right? So making the transition down the street and taking the distribution system with me was pretty simple.
Yeah, yeah. So you were a sales engineer, and they didn't have the network. I remember that they were like innovative, right? They developed the BRs, right? The electrical coils. Is that originally their design?
Yeah, the Dryquick?
Yeah.
The Dryquick developed, they started off making ceramic generators. So basically ceramic cones with a NiCad wire buried in them, and then they're over slurried with a thermal cement. And they heated up and had thermal mass and inertia and all of that other good stuff. And they didn't get too hot, so they were long wavelength IR. And that's how they started. And then they got off from there into making their own quartz tubes, which is basically a quartz cylinder that they sourced from Saint-Gobain, and put a NiCad wire inside of that in just a normal oxygen environment. And like they weren't a sealed tube. So they heated up like a big toaster sort of thing, and gave off reasonably decent medium wavelength IR, but they had very little thermal mass. So they would change temperatures really quickly. They could be controlled nicely with SCRs and that sort of thing, where they got a part of the voltage that they were intended to take, and they could be adjusted up and down pretty quickly. Anyway, that's where they were, and then they had been using a limited amount of Vulcan catalytic thermal reactors just before CCI bought them, and when we bought them, we put it into that in a heartbeat. Then you and I got to know each other basically on the catalytic gas side of things initially, and the dry quick did really well on the catalytic gas side of things, and they were kind of stymied a little bit by one of the other CCI divisions for the electric side of things, for example, like Solar Industries makes a ceramic panel heater that behaves similar to the quick cone dry quick ones, but they're rectangular heaters, so every last square inch of that heater is an emissive surface area, so they pattern parts way better, right? And they can also, they aren't a design push from a watts per square inch standpoint. They're the dry quick stuff kind of pooped out at what the hell, 12 or 15 watts per square inch. The electric stuff and the solar stuff actually is capable of like 30.
You live in Canada now, right?
Yes.
And the company's in Greensburg, Indiana, right?
So I do stuff for 5 blocks away from where Dry Quick was in Greensburg. So they build for U.S. distributors and that sort of thing. And then I've got another company called Jenna Industries in the Toronto area that builds ovens for Canada. And over the period of time that's transpired since I left Greensburg and moved back here, which was what 2014 is when I moved back. I've managed to get reconnected with Thermon, which is the company that eventually bought CCI Thermal, lock, stock, and barrel.
Where the other guys are? I remember Ben. And
Ben actually works for Thermon as well. He went from Dry Quick effectively to Thermon Houston, which let me back this up. When they shut down Dry Quick, they took my thinking that they wanted to have a distribution center in the States, and instead of putting it in Dry Quick, which existed already, Bernie, the president at the time, decided that, well, we'll open up one engine. And then since he never really liked engineered products at all, he'd rather build 100,000 widgets than do one engineered project. He basically shut down Dry Quick shortly thereafter, right? You could see the writing for that on the wall. Anyway, so Ben was then employed by the Houston operation, and he worked in 3L filters, doing big filters for gas turbine engines and stuff like that, air filters. And then he is now, I think, currently with the rail side of Thermon. But we got to go back further. So he went to CCI Houston, and then CCI got bought by Thermon, which is a big public company. And they got bought, I want to say 2015, I think, something like that, 2016.
That's great. That's great.
Anyway, so Ben's with them still. He's now doing rail stuff, and Gary is retired. McIlvain is a pastor. He takes care of 3 churches in the Cleveland area.
Yeah, I have him on Facebook, and I see church posts. I see that he's working in church and he's doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool. So lot of sales. Even my experience in US. I was working in one company which was called Chicago Automation, and
Mhm.
1 year I was there 1 year, and after that the boss sold the company, and we didn't agree on some terms, and I just went to a bigger company, which I'm in now, and again after 1 year and a half, I think maybe 2 years in the company, they were sold to IPG, which is a multinational big company, plastic and tape company.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of acquisitions. It's a dynamic there in US. We don't get that here in Serbia. It's not that dynamic. No way. But that's a sign that the commerce is live, and you know you're doing something and everything is moving. Out here, when you have one company, that's it. most of the cases are like that, and that's the most thing I liked in US. A lot of work and a lot of dynamics, and you always have to keep moving, otherwise you're dead. You grew up in Canada, right?
Yes.
In
Yes.
the,
And I'm back in Canada. So
yeah,
we decided to move back to be closer to family, and at that point in time, my mother was getting pretty old and needed to be keep kept track of. Right?
yeah, that's great. What was your beginnings in engineering? What's your background?
I I started off in pre-dent at university, and had too much of a good time. Didn't make the dentistry cutoff, and eventually just ended up in science. So I have no engineering degree. I took a bunch of marketing and that kind of courses because I thought they were interesting at the time, which turned out later to be pretty damn handy. I understand processes basically like a chemist might, and can could on the coding side of things could explain stuff to non technical people in non-technical terms, so that they would understand what the hell was going on when you're talking about polymerization and catalyst operating temperatures and stuff like that. So that's how I got started, and then the first couple of things I did in IR were way back when Banks first met Sunkist, which is a long time ago. I want to say 76 or something like that.
From my side, I can say that you're one of the best engineers I ever met, because the way you introduced me to infrared heating, and the way you did the quotes and calculations, and the way you helped me, that was pretty amazing. I even got to, I think I showed you, I was on the science gatherings. It's like a science show on the mountaintops in the hotel, and there we present our science work. And I used to present infrared heating with all your calculations and the pictures and stuff. And I was very well accepted, and it was very good stuff. So thank you for that.
Great.
You're one of the best, and one of my role models in engineering.
Yeah, the non-engineer.
But you are definitely. I mean, I used to when I went to college and when I finished it, I haven't got any clue about engineering. I mean, that was just my mind was just ready to do something that maybe somebody who wasn't in engineering school couldn't do. But my knowledge was very, let's say, narrow and insufficient for the real life. So your experience from real life and real projects is far better than engineering school, believe me. It's not comparable.
Well, yeah, I was fortunate. I was fortunate in that the minute that CCI or Syscan bought Finishing Concepts and made me part of their company, from that point on, we had access to test equipment. And I've always been a sucker for that kind of stuff, and you can learn a ton of stuff if you're testing stuff on a regular basis, and you've got an open mind about it. So, and there was not a lot of math at that point that you could apply to IR, or at least that I knew. We started, translating things into BTU energy density per cubic foot of heated oven and that sort of thing. That worked out really well. And it prevents you from making any bad errors process-wise, right? That if your energy density is too low, it isn't going to work, and if it's too high, it's going to toast the substrate. But you can only figure that out from actually doing it. And in our test center, you spent a fair amount of time in our test center in Greensburg later there, and it's invaluable. A bunch of little things that got learned are like the purpose of recirc air, for example, and is exactly opposite what anybody with a convection mindset thinks. In a convection mindset, you want to have rapid air impingement on the part surface, and it's going to technically shave down the boundary layer and keep replacing the air at the boundary layer with fresh hot air, which is going to transfer energy to the coating. The coating is going to take some of that energy, but the coating is sitting on top of a substrate that's typically way more dense and better conductive than the coating, or at least way more dense. So it's going to conduct some energy from the coating into that substrate, and the coating temperature doesn't come up as quickly as it can because it's losing energy into the substrate. So I diverge myself right out of this conversation.
I remember the test center. That was really great option for us. For example, I could just send some parts to you, and you do the tests and send it back. It was really good. Let's say presentation.
It was neat because it removed.
So we were
it removed all the.
We were fairly new with the IR heating, with infrared heating in my part of Europe, but I have a impression that it was new even for US and Europe, because they didn't know anything about it. I mean, the European companies that I used to contact, and we ended up. I mean, we had to explain to the people. I had presentations. I have the science papers and white papers and. Everything that I could have I created. I had your pictures and I had the test reports, and I remember we had very good cooperation, and we did a couple of projects in the region, which was fairly, let's say, not regular here for our country and for our company to do like an export of the mechanical and industrial equipment around here, but we did it because we had the know-how from you, from the US, and your test center was really state of the art. I remember it was really fun. I was there for 3 weeks, and with all the distributors. Do you remember the guy from France? He took when we were in the bar, he was ready to play a guitar, and we didn't have any guitar, and he just went out to the room and found the guitar, and we all asked him, how did you do it? And he said, you can do anything in US for $50. So he basically rented the guitar for that night, and he was a lot of fun. Do you remember that guy? He was like a big shot with big contracts, and he did some Middle East projects or whatever.
Was he from France or Turkey?
Well, I think the guy was from France with a little bit of hair, long hair or something.
France. Okay.
Never mind. It was an interesting character. So, do you guys have COVID situation in Canada? How's that going?
It's going, I think, fairly well here. They've got a reasonable percentage of the population vaccinated, and there's still a modest amount of how do you say, complainer types that aren't going to get done, and they're trying to motivate them to get it done. My personal standpoint on it is, why would you take any sort of risk, right? So carrots up, the ones that are too young to get vaccinated are all vaccinated now. I can't imagine tempting fate to find out.
Yeah.
Anyway, and in the States, there's a high percentage of a higher percentage of people that are anti-vax type people that are, which I don't understand at all. I don't know what's it like there.
Well, we have the same situation. A lot of, I mean, not a lot, but most of the guys are getting vaccinated. But we have an anti-vaccine lobby, and they are doing the fair amount of their propaganda. But I think it's like a minor thing in our country. We're doing fairly good. I used to have COVID last year, and it was just like a stronger flu, nothing big. But all around, I hear some
Okay.
cases, young people or old people, or there's no rules anymore. Everybody's getting like touched by COVID situation. And I'm a little bit, like underground. I don't move a lot because I have six kids. I take care of myself for that occasion. And other than that, we're getting back on in normal situation. The bars are open, restaurants and stuff. So far
Yeah,
so good.
yeah, it's opening up here too. So the restaurants are open, and bars, and all of that stuff. So
So do you have when you do your projects, do you do some project management or engineering, or just sales, and when the thing starts, you're off to the next one?
and, what I'm doing is kind of like oven design for distributors, effectively. So, which is kind of what I did before as well. So I get involved at the onset, sometimes discussing things with the end clients, so they get the idea how it's going to work, and excuse me, so that the proper tests and that get done on it by whoever's going to build the oven, once they get a sale, I kind of have an opportunity to have to review their drawing and make sure it's kind of what was intended, and give them a little input in that direction, and then I'm out of there unless they have troubleshooting. So I get involved in the troubleshooting side of things too, periodically. So it's the same stuff I was doing before.
That's great. That's great. Do you do a lot of traveling?
No, I can, no, that's one of the benefits of this is that I can do this from my basement, and the guys I'm dealing with are like yourself, people that I've known for a long time, don't need any FaceTime with them, so to speak, just communication, right?
Right.
So there isn't much that can't be done from the basement, right?
Of course, I'm the living proof. So I was when I got back from the States in 2018, I had an arrangement with my boss that I will go and install the machines all over the world, and
Mhm.
that was initially the very bad engagement for me because in you know what I'm talking about, right? So when I got back home in 2018, end of the year, until the end of the year of 2019, I was 9 months out of the country. So only 3 months inside. So I was talking to my boss in 2020, and I told him, hey, I better go back to the States if it's going to be like this, like I'm not in Serbia. I'm waking up one day in Thailand. I was there for 3 weeks, letting commissioning some machines. And I literally didn't know where I am because it was some weird hotel with the dark lights and with the weird smells in Thailand and stuff. You know, like it's very different from our culture. And so I eventually said to my boss, "Hey, find somebody younger, please, and with less kids. I don't see my kids at all. So please let me stay at home in my basement, please." And he said, "Okay, I'm gonna call you just when there is an emergency."
Yeah, and yeah, they have no idea that traveling is not the perk everyone thinks it is, right? It really isn't. It's a right now I'm actually doing a project in Thailand for a company called SMPK, and it's a sizable project, and I'm pleased to announce I'll never have to go to Thailand to actually look at it.
It's not a picnic. I mean, the food, the hygiene, the smells, the people, it's very, very different what I'm used to. So we had a blast. I mean, the food is weird. They just brought me a bowl of rice, and it was fairly small, like an appetizer. And I asked them, "Hey, can you
Mhm.
bring me three of those?" Because I mean, this is
Look at me, I wouldn't survive.
Mm. I remember, and I tell the guys a lot, when I was in US for the first time, I don't know if you remember 2003, you took me out to the diner, which is like a from 50s original diner,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
and
Stories,
we were with the
stories restaurant.
yeah, we were with the guys, and I don't know, it was five of us or six, and all of the guys from US were eating like the big ribs, the big portions and stuff, and I was like doing something on the side, and I couldn't complete the whole meal, and the waitress was looking at me like I'm some kind of a weird person, like, "You cannot eat, what's wrong with you?" You have so your portions are so big. And I let's say I was more used to it when I was living there. And it's basically, um, if you're not eating bread, it's okay. But I used to eat a lot of bread with my dish, with my diet.
Mhm.
Overall, we Serbs, we eat a lot of bread, so I couldn't eat a lot of meat. So I had like just half a portion because I ate bread or something. And but nevertheless, the waitress was looking at me funny, and she was like, "This guy is no good."
A little on the traveling to Mars, you cannot escape paying some attention to that because of the extent of it on the internet, right? The AI stuff, no, not a bunch. And I think the stuff that has kept me entertained a bit is there's been some changes to like the CSA criteria for control of gas operated appliances and stuff. So I do pay attention to that kind of stuff. But the AI stuff just kind of what filters into my brain off the internet without being actively pursuing further information on it. How about you? You've always been an inquisitive type, so you probably pay a whole
Yeah,
bunch of
I'm a
attention.
big follower. As you can see, I'm doing the podcast, and I listen to fair amount of podcasts per day and per week. And a lot of my let's say what I listen to is engineering experts like Elon Musk and all the other guys that are leading the way. And yeah, I'm happy that we're living in this time. I mean, everything's changed. 20 years ago, it was a whole different planet, and we don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. So I'm excited, and there's some good stuff.
The rate of change is
Yeah, it's going to be a
the
lot of changes. For
the
example,
rate
in
of
my
change seems to be accelerating. The rate of change seems to be accelerating for sure. The logistics of that is an amazing event, right? Honestly, the how they can contend with all sorts of different packages, for lack of a better way of putting it, right? And the automated level of picking and packing is off the end of the scale, right? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Everything is like done by robots and stuff. And I used to when I was living in the US, I was a consumer. I was let's say user of the Amazon services because I was moving a lot in US. I mean, let's say 4 times in 2 years, maybe 5. And I would order a complete bed, like the construction and the mattresses and the closets, everything would go from Amazon. And it was, let's say, 34% cheaper, and the service was excellent. So it's not Amazon's fault. I mean, they always say Amazon is closing some stores and stuff. It's completely not true, because the Amazon is only giving us what we want. For example, if I had to rent a U-Haul and go to the store and bought a mattress and the construction, the down, the stuff that goes under the mattress, the base of the bed, I would spend like, I don't know, a couple $1,000. And with Amazon, everything came to my address for, I think, 1,000.
Okay.
So you can see the difference, and the logistics and the ease of the service. Basically, I couldn't do it without Amazon, if I recollect correctly. It gave us, people like me, an opportunity to move faster, to be, let's say, more efficient. I'm really into it. And also, besides Amazon, I don't really watch TV anymore. I just watch Netflix and YouTube, and I do my own stuff. I don't really watch anything on the normal TV.
That thing applies to me as well too. We watch Netflix and YouTube and very, very, very little TV.
Very, very little. I mean, I don't know what to watch on TV anymore. The news are always negative, and always somebody is yelling at somebody else, and it's boring already. Boring.